Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. There's no better story for a warm-up than the one about the crazy customer, don't you agree? But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. I'm a lawyer and I will bankrupt your dad. This happened this summer. Okay, backstory. My family has a little hotel and restaurant in northern Italy, and this summer I, being 16, worked there as a waiter. In the restaurant, we had not only hotel guests, but also externs. This happened at around 9 in early August, so I and everybody else were a little busy. Let me introduce everybody immediately. CW is my co-worker, the other waiter. Mom and Dad are, well, my parents, who both work in the kitchen. B is my brother, 4 years younger than me, who obviously didn't work. MF is Mom's friend. She's a nice lady who now lives in another region, but was a very close friend of my mom when they were in school. She was here with her kids, K1, older and male, I think he's 11, and K2, a girl who's not relevant for the story, and her husband, H, for a couple of days. K1 and K2 are a little annoying, but they aren't the entitled kids of this story. Then there's ED and EK. You know what that stands for. Here's the story. B and K1 go outside and play football. MF was there watching them. K2 and H were petting the donkey that we have. This means that they couldn't see B and K1 but could hear them if they shouted. Soon after the game started, none of them had even 5 points, so they hadn't been playing for long. ED and EK got there. ED, you've played enough. Let us play. B, actually we just started. We'd like to finish the game. ED, we're in a hurry, so let us play or we won't have time to. B, but ED, I told you step aside and let us play. You don't have any right to stay there. MF, pointing at B, apart from the fact that he's the son of the owner of the hotel, so he has every right to stay there all night, they were here before you, so let them finish the game. ED, shouting, I inform you that I am a lawyer, and that if you don't let us play, I will sue this place. Spoiler alert, he didn't sue anyone. And I will take this hotel from your dad. At this point, H and CW heard him, but when they got there, ED and EK were leaving, shouting and saying that he'll come back. My brother was literally crying. CW called me and my mom, then B and MF told us what happened. We tried to figure out who he was, but we understood that he wasn't sleeping in the hotel. It isn't very big, and working as a waiter, I knew nearly everybody. We never saw him again. And our second story. Wise choice, wrong age. So I was at my local grocery store with my mom because I had to use the bathroom and the plumbing in my neighborhood was shut down due to a broken pipe down the street. My mom was doing some last-minute Thanksgiving shopping, so I was waiting by the electronics and listening to music while looking at the movies and TV shows when one catches my eye. I'll tell you at the end because it's hilarious. I pick it up and glance at it when I get the famous ahem of a Karen right behind me. Karen, excuse me, employees aren't supposed to wear these. She says this as she yanks out my earbuds. Now I'm wearing a red shirt, which is what employees wear, but they have the logo on the front and back while mine's all blank on the sides. Sorry, ma'am, I don't work here. Yeah, right. Don't make me get your manager. She had that smug voice and her annoying child behind her. He looked 10. Mommy, I want that one. He was pointing at the show I was holding. You heard him. Give it to me. She held out her hand, expecting me to hand it over. Ma'am, this show is not for It's animated, of course it is. You see, I want it. He started crying and rolling on the floor. Just shut up and give it here, you dumb employee. At this point, a manager walks by because he wanted to check out all the noise. Is there a problem here? Yes, this stupid employee is wearing headphones that made my son cry because he won't give my son the movie. Sorry, ma'am, this boy doesn't work here. And if I may ask, who got the movie first? Her face was red with anger after hearing I wasn't an employee. I said I did, but I'm not planning on buying it. Well, if that's the case, then could you please give it to this lady? With a sense of malicious intent, I said, okay, and gave it to her. The kid instantly stopped and got all happy, and the Karen had a smug look on her face. So are we good here? Yes, we are, I say. Later, I saw her walk out of the store with her kid still holding the show. The kid was pretty entitled, but maybe he'll have a change of heart after he watches a few episodes of his new collection of Part 1 and 2 of JoJo. And our next story. Electric bill still in our name after we move out? I'll make sure we're not charged a cent. We moved out of an apartment 2 months early. School housing contracts. Ugh. Since we couldn't get anyone to move in for only 2 months, we were on the hook for the 2 months of rent, which was a fortune to poor college students. We were told by the on-site manager, also a poor college student, being paid in free rent, that we'd be responsible for the electricity bills in the apartment over the next 2 months, despite already doing our official move-out. No, they can't be changed back to the landlord's name. Fine, I'll pay the electric bills, but I'll make sure they're zero. So when we left, I turned off all the breakers. I still had the keys because we were supposed to mail them back to the property owner at our expense, since I guess he lives far away and only comes to town at the beginning and end of each semester. A few days later, we realized we'd forgotten some items in the bathroom, and since the apartment was on my way to school, I decided to swing by and grab them before mailing the keys back. When I walked in, I was startled to find someone inside. It was the property owner with a box of tools looking very dirty. Apparently, the hallway lights weren't working and in violation of building safety codes, and he couldn't figure out why. The security system also seemed to be non-functional. It looked like something had tripped all the breakers, he said. I said, yeah, that something was me since the electric bill was still in our name. He pointed out that not powering the hallway light was a safety concern, and also that having the power off would ruin the refrigerator. I pointed out that I couldn't care less about the safety of an apartment I didn't live in. I already had signed move-out documents saying all the appliances were in good shape, and also that him being there was technically a landlord violation since we were still paying rent and he hadn't given us notice that he'd be entering the apartment. We looked at each other for a few seconds. I was wondering if I was technically trespassing or not since I'd already signed move-out documents. He probably was thinking about how much time he had wasted for something like 13 cents worth of electricity and how he couldn't really stop me from simply dropping by every day after school to turn the breakers off again. Finally, he said he'd take the electric bill out of our name. I grabbed my loofah, left, and didn't hear anything about it ever again. Most importantly, I never paid another cent, except, of course, the 2 months of rent, but small victories. I'm impressed. You went back for a loofah. And our last story. Don't manipulate your daughter. When I was very young, I worshipped the ground that my father walked on. When I was 5, my parents got divorced, and I remember crying because I wouldn't get to live with them. This all began to change when I was 8. At first, it was fairly basic level abuse, the sort of stuff that tickles in the back of your mind, but you can't really put your finger on. Things like trying to turn me against my mother, refusing to let me take some chronic medication that I was on because I didn't need it, never mind that it was for asthma and I could barely breathe without it, that sort of bullcrap. When I was 13, I developed an eating disorder. I was trying to stunt my growth, so I'd starve myself. I began to recover towards the end of the year. I turned 15, and despite the fact I weighed 20-odd kilograms below my healthy weight, which is 68 kilograms to put this into perspective, everybody was effing celebrating. Everybody, that is, except him. I had to spend a few weeks with him over the end-of-the-year holidays, and he spent nearly every meal berating me and telling me if I keep eating like that, I was going to get fat. Bear in mind that my stomach had shrunk, so I still couldn't keep very much food down. The petty revenge. Eventually, I began to get sick of all his crap. At first, it was really petty, mostly informing people that he had lied to of the truth. I also got a couple of piercings because I knew that he hated any sort of body modification. Final straws. There were 2 things that pushed me from petty revenge to wanting blood. The first was that I learned that he was very abusive to my mother as well as cheated on her for the entire duration of their marriage. I can shake off much of what you do to me, but nobody, and I mean nobody, is allowed to hurt my mother. The second was that I was able to get my grubby little paws on the divorce agreement. I read over the entire maintenance part of it. He'd retired at 47 years old and had since been reneging pretty badly on his obligations. I knew from some information that he had inadvertently dropped that he had several million rands squirreled away, so he could pay, he just wouldn't. The ProRevenge. The first part was the easier of the 2. I failed to convince my mother to press charges against my father. It wasn't hard. She was pretty effing angry when she found out about cheating. Now on to the best part. With the information about his unpaid maintenance, as well as some financial documents I'd found while doing the above-mentioned poking, I was able to work out exactly what he owed, and I could prove that he could pay. I also used his photocopier so that I had copies of the documents for my records, but that's beside the point. Using this and the fact that I was now 18, I took him to magistrate's court, where you sue for amounts in between $12K and $400K. I sued him for just a shade under $360K. He'd already spread a story that I was simply trying to extort him. When we got to court, he tried to argue that he wasn't working so he couldn't spare the money. The judge asked him if he was boarded, let go for medical reasons. He had to say no, after which the judge immediately found in my favor. His actual line was, "Then you take some of what you have and you give it to your daughter." The absolute cherry on the cake is that this caused him to lose face with almost his entire family, especially his older brother. The last few times he's tried to pull his old tricks, I find a way to let my uncle know without making it look like I'm going crying to him. Usually I work it into a general catching up email as sort of an offhand comment, and next thing I hear, he'll have phoned my father and torn him a new one. The best sort of revenge is the type where you don't have to get your hands dirty. Just throwing this out there, 5 million Rand is $380,000, 360,000 Rand is $27,200. Thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.